Good evening, madam, and good evening, my dear kids. So we are going to start the 7th session. Today we'll be looking at something, once again, really important for you all. As if you can remember, we happen to explore the two receptive skills. Now you must be wondering, what is receptive skills? Yes. Let's clear what is a receptive skill, and then we can move ahead with the rest. Now, when you're dealing with particularly communication and interactions with the rest of the world, my dear kids, keep in mind that you process your sensory organs and sensory perceptions and your brain in the center. And in your interaction with the rest of the world, you actually produce them some communication or other messages by using voice, or rather by using words and language. The same way, when it comes to language, if you want to produce some message, you can write as well. But writing is a later civilized, or rather later thing came into the civilized world, but originally it was speaking that produce messages to the peers, or rather the people around you. And at the very early days of the human communication, it was through speech and other sign languages that people tend to pass messages to the peers, or rather the interlocutors or the encounters in front of you. And it was through listening that you happen to process them within your brain. Now, this brain, which actually is coordinated in two ways. There are ways that you get, or rather intake, information from around you, which we call reception of information, reception of knowledge, reception of messages or anything. You receive things. When you take things into your brain, we call them receptive skills, or rather receptive organs, or whatever you call it. Receptive skills include, particularly when it comes to language, you are reading and you're listening. Reading and listening. And if you could remember, we dealt with listening, not listening, reading in the very first instance, so that we have mastered one of the most critical attentive exercises of reception or receiving data through reading. And today we are going to master the second skill of reception, or a receptive skill, that is listening. So, my dear girls, we have Sahanya, we have Minoda. Can I hear a little response from you? What are the two receptive skills? You can simply chat and send it to me so that I know that you are there. Let me put what I happened to talk a little while ago in Sinhala. දැන් පුතේ අපි මේ තොරතුරුත් එක්ක. Yes, madam. Thank you for reminding. Yes, Madam Ashwini, you also can contribute. Yes. Thank you, Minoda. You respond telling reading and listening. Yes. Sahanya, I'm sure you also will be responding to me. Yes. Reading and listening. Right. So what happens with this reading and listening skill is quite simply, we receive information. And you will see that when we have some information and knowledge in and around and within our brain, we also want to produce it to the world. And when we produce them, we call them productive skills. When you receive something, we call it receptive skills and productive skills. And keep in mind, in language, there are two productive skills as well. Speech, which I'm doing right now, and writing, which you're supposed to do later, right? So speech and writing are productive skills, whereas listening and reading are receptive skills. So we started with receptive skills because we are teaching you, or rather we are guiding you as to how you can grasp knowledge, exist in forms of lectures, in forms of monographs, in forms of text, in forms of videos, or in forms of different modalities. There is knowledge existing, and you should be able to grasp all those existing knowledge in a STEM classroom to make yourself knowledgeable. So that we started with the receptive skills. Okay, okay. Let me ask one more question from the three girls in the classroom. Ashwini, Sahanya, and Minoda. Yes. The question is, what do you think is the most challenging skill for you out of the four skills? What are the four skills? Reading, writing, listening, and speaking. What is your most challenging skill? Quickly respond to me. I just happen to keep my video on to indicate that I'm here. It's not a robot speaks. It's Prasanna speaking here. Let me switch it off for a while. And I want to hear from you. What skill is going to be most challenging to you? You might phrase it like, what skill is currently the most challenging for you? Sahanya, yes. You indicate, yep. Minoda, yes. We have a third girl to respond. Madam Ashwini, good evening.
Yes, good evening. So I think from the four skills, for me, I don't know, it's listening.
Well, so that out of the four skills, there are three skills that is found by the three participants in the classroom as challenging. Sahanya found writing to be challenging, whereas Minoda finds speaking to be challenging, and Mashwini found listening to be challenging. Okay. Let me clear a little. All of your answers are correct because it's highly subjective. You know what is challenging to you. But just look at behind reading, writing, speaking, and listening, there exists your brain. And your brain typically deals with something called the process thinking. And Madam Ashwini must be knowing, and she is the one who actually put this very strongly in my mind. When we incorporate, or rather, when we are creating a connection between reading, writing, speaking, and listening, there is always a standby skill which is often activated in our brain, which is thinking. And thinking is a skill that coordinates, that correlates, or rather, that interconnects all the four skills. If thinking actually works in every receptive and productive process, I'm sure that every skill is going to be easy. But let's look at writing. Now, when you write something, you have time to plan. When you write something, you take time to write. And even after writing, before you produce it to the reader, you still have time to proofread it, revisit it, revise it, right? And a writing will be seen by your reader. Writing will be seen by your reader after several iterations of revisions, moderations, corrections, and refining. So Sahanya found writing to be difficult just because in writing, everyone expects perfection because you have time to process, you have time to plan, you have time to review, and you have the time to refine your writing. Therefore, everyone, when you produce a writing artifact, everyone really expect it to be perfect. Is it the case, Sahanya, you think the reason behind writing be difficult? If it is not, you have to tell me what and why you consider writing to be difficult. Yes, Sahana, just elaborate a little on it. Also, we can, yes. Navidu, welcome, Navidu. Little late, but you are welcome here. Well, Well, Sahanya, yes, there is a little chance for us to correct when you write something. Well, well, maybe I would agree with it.
No, but we can edit. We can edit a lot of time before we submit something. But now, when it comes to speaking, there's no chance of. No, it depends on the context again.
Very true. Well, Minola, I'm attending to your point. You find speaking to be challenging. Minola, can you tell me what made speaking challenging for you and why do you think speaking is going to be challenging? Navidu, we have set a question, if you can hear me. I happen to ask from you, what is the most challenging skill in language? Is it reading? Is it writing? Is it speaking? Or is it listening? So you can answer in the chat. And I'm asking the question from Minoda. You can either chat or rather respond with your mic on. What do you think? Or rather, why speaking is difficult for you? And Navidu also tells speaking is difficult. Okay. Why and what made Minoda and Navidu to find speaking that challenging? Yep.
Shall I tell you?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Because it's spontaneous.
Well, guys, did you get the idea what is spontaneous? Somebody who knows the meaning of spontaneous can simply put it in the chat. We can explain, but before explaining, I want you to engage. Yeah, I'm here. Waiting for you to answer. Waiting for you to answer, ladies and the gentlemen. We have just one gentleman here. Minoda, what made speaking challenging? Or rather, why do you think speaking is challenging? And Navidu can also answer the question quickly. And perhaps Madam Ashwini, why do people think that speaking is challenging? You said it's spontaneous. Yes. Yes. And we know the ads, it's too little time to process. Very well done. Minoda, you actually answered both questions. The first question is why speaking is difficult, and the second question, what is the meaning of spontaneous? Spontaneous means, things come into exist as it happens. So it's a very natural process. At the very time it processes, everything processes at the time we do it. That
And
is
also
spontaneous.
and then it also integrates two skills together. We should listen and as well as produce. There's a receptive and as well as a production skill come. So
Thank
there's
you.
two things happening. Responding and react. We have like input and output both.
Yes, it's going to be a sort of cyclic process in which this input and output interacts. And at the same time, it's spontaneous, happens at the very time you process both. And you have very little time for preparation. And if you compare that with writing, you have no chance at all to process, not process, amend, or moderate when you speak. And Navindu happened to bring another idea. I'm stuck when speaking in English because I need more vocabulary. Okay. I think that's a secondary aspect. Speaking is going to be challenging when you have very little material with you. Your material is typically vocabulary. Well, perhaps. Well, let me add a bit. Speaking is typically something that Sri Lankan people consider difficult. It's a taboo here in Sri Lanka where we are a little resistant to speak because we think that we should speak perfectly. Now, unlike your writing, in writing, we expect you to write perfectly because it gives you time to plan, amend, moderate, and revise. But in speaking, you are not given such a time. It's spontaneously happening process. Therefore, you have the right to actually make mistakes. And having mistakes in speaking is totally fine. And none of the mistakes that
And
you do.
yeah, and also most of the people they struggle to find the perfect word. I mean, if we can't find if the perfect word doesn't come into our mind, we can substitute it with another group of words to say the same idea. That can be a strategy. You don't have to like be confused or like stuck when you don't find the perfect word to articulate your thought.
Well, that's a very good piece of advice for particularly Navidu and everyone. Right, Navidu, I think your question is answered by Madam Ashwini. When you stuck with the word, perhaps yes, there can be other ways that you can articulate the same idea, right? And keep in mind that it's not only words that you articulate in your vocal cords that matters in communication, but also there are lots of things like body language, your gesture, and lots of other modalities coming into play when you're speaking, right? Okay. We were just having a bit of a brainstorming idea as to how listening, reading, speaking, and writing, four skills could be difficult, and how these skills are going to be interacting in a speech act. Now, keep in mind, none of these skills stay in separate chambers where they are not interacting. They all, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, all skills are integrated and they all happen actually simultaneously and spontaneously. What you call a better fluent speaker means your speech happens spontaneously. When you say yourself a good writer, which means your writing happens spontaneously. When you say you are a good listener, your listening and processing and grasping information happens spontaneously. And that applies to the other skill as well. So, what we are trying here is to help you find strategies to become yourself from your novice and very stranger like sentiment in language to a native or rather very proficient user in language. We're actually empowering you, giving you strategies and trying some tactics in the classroom to practice the strategies and get yourself into the water. Now, it's not a way that we teach you swimming by online, right? We are teaching you language, but if you are going to use simply the chat alone, that will be certainly a swimming lesson taught on online mode, or rather it could be a lesson taught distantly, right? But that's why we often invite you to keep your mic unmute and speak with us so that the interaction happens quite quick. Well, Madam Ashwini, today we are going to look at the listening skills. Is it listening? Yes. Do you have anything that might prepare them for the lesson today before we go for the slides?
No, I mean, we can go to the slides directly.
So friends, here you are. We are looking at a particular skill today, listening for gist and detailed information. Now you see there are two things coming into your mind, popping up two things. Number one, the gist. And number two, details. Gist and detail. Can you guys send me your response defining what you mean by gist and what you mean by detail? Or rather, simply tell me, what do you think is gist and what do you think is detail? I'm waiting for your responses. In the meantime, Navidu, since you said that you struggle with vocabulary, one thing that you can do is read a lot. And while you're reading, if you are a participant of our lecture, or rather if you happen to watch the recording of the strategies, or rather the lesson on word dynamics, we taught you how to do a little play and experiment with words. And then we opened the way to academic word list, where we actually taught you how 570 families of words, how they are going to be covering the academic word list aspect, right? So the answers are actually, panacea is given to you. So what you have to do is to refer back to those lessons, number one, and of course, keep on reading new things every day. And while you're reading new things, when you encounter a new word, you can actually go ahead, doing the experiment by looking at their different dynamics, so that you'll be investigating, identifying the word family. Because when you see a word in its different dynamics, like starting from standalone and then compounding and then transfiguration, then affixation, and then praising dynamics, if you could remember, praising, when you put the word into all those dynamics, you begin to interact with the word and you are becoming part and parcel of, or rather you are becoming, that particular word is becoming part of your active vocabulary, right? So that's a bit of advice for you to begin. And in the meantime, Sahanya happened to send us the meaning for gist. Gist is the main idea. When it is described, it is detailed. Okay. Gist is the main idea. Descriptive is the detail. Okay. Thank you, Sahanya. Thank you. Well, with that idea in the center, we are moving. Yes. Today, these are the things that we are targeting to achieve, right? We want you to differentiate between, when you're doing the listening act, you have to do it at different levels. At the beginning, you'll be doing it for gist, and later, with bit of interaction of your mind with active listening, you'll be going into detailed information. So we'll be differentiating between the two processes, and we'll be mastering each process. And after mastering this gist and detailed listening, we are trying to apply those strategies into a real STEM video lesson, where we are going to try how active listening could be practiced. And later, we'll try ourselves to collaborate in a listening task, and then we'll be developing listening to comprehension and to further exploration. Those are the three steps of attending a lecture. You listen, you comprehend, and you go on exploring further. And we'll be doing that rehearsal as well today in our lecture. So keeping those lesson objectives in the center, let's move to the first slide. I'm sure you can read the big red box on top. What is gist and what is detail? That's our concept. Okay. Can you read what is gist? It's an equation. Gist equals a big picture. Big picture. So for example, what is this about? Can you remember skimming? Can you remember skimming? The reading strategy? Yes. What we did when we were skimming? Yes. We did the same. What we did? We actually looked at the general main idea of the paragraph when we start to read it. Can you remember? So the same principle applies here, but on a different sensory organ, that is your ear and brain this time. When you grasp the gist, when you look for the gist reading, what you're doing is just listening. You look at the big picture. You make a guess and you try to digest the big picture of the whole thing. And detailed information comes next. When you grasp, when you catch, when you get a touch of the gist, then it's easy for you to process your brain because you know that this particular thing is about something, right? When you got to know what that something is, then it is easy for your brain to activate the neurons in it and connect existing knowledge with the words, with the phrases, with the sentences that you hear as part of your listening process, right? So if we are to put this in a metaphor to understand this better, taking gist equals to what we did in reading, skimming, right? And we can compare this as something like a satellite view, which means a very distant view, right? When you look at the gist from a distance, you look at it and you get a big idea. And when you go for the detail, you know what happened? You go much into the detail and you take a microscopic view of the thing that you listen. If you could remember my analogy on reading, can you remember in skimming, we thought that the whole paragraph is about a forest, right? And when it comes to scanning, we were looking for a certain tree in that forest. Can you remember? The same applies here. The satellite view is all about when you try the first thing, the gist, the main idea, big picture. That is just like a satellite view of something. And when you get into the detail, like you did in scanning, where you were searching for a particular specific tree within the jungle, the same way, we will be using the analogy of microscope where we are looking at minute small facts and details little by little. Madam Ashwini, I'm sure that you have something to add here. Please add that bit. I know that's going to be Jen.
Yeah, so I don't have much to add, but as the said, now it listen something. Listening is again a very much spontaneous thing because now if we listen to a lecture or if we are in a conversation with with another person or if we are in the middle of a dialogue with a group of people, there's a high chance that the person who is talking will not repeat the same information twice. So you must be very careful in using the best strategies in order to listen, to capture the gist and also the detail. So first you can go for the big picture, that is just you can listen, like after you listen to the whole idea, you can go on analyzing, okay, what was he or she mainly talking about? And then after you grasp the main idea, you can just, now if you are very interested about remembering or just remembering certain details on the conversation or the dialogue or the lecture, you can really note down those things while listening. And yeah, that's it.
So, guys, we are going to explore these two processes, listening for gist and then listening for detail. Right? Okay, okay. Now, as we told in psychology of learning, there is a critical theory that we call the schema theory, in which they consider that comprehension that you gain by reading, listening, or whatever receptive way from a material, how you comprehend something is described as a schema activation process. So what happens is, to your brain, you first suggest by giving the big idea, this is about something, because in your brain, there is a lot of information stored, and your brain knows everything quite literally, because every new knowledge actually surfaces from a very simple instinct that everyone knows, right? That instinct knowledge that is there in the brain needs to be first activated. And when it is activated, the neurons know, oh my God, this is about that. It's something like this. Before you test the whole tea, and if you want to test the warmth of the tea, or rather how hot it is, you just take a bit of a sip with your lips alone so that you taste how hot it is. And if you are not sure about the tea's condition, if it is apparently very hot looking, instead of putting your lip tips, you'll be putting your fingertips. So without risking your lip, you'll be putting your finger. The same way, your brain begins to process data when its already known schemas are activated. So we, by applying the gist and detail strategies, what we are doing is, quite simply, we are activating schemas. We first channel our brain to signal it that, yes, we are going to look at this particular aspect, because your brain knows something about it. And then on top of that, we are going to look at the gist. And on top of that, we'll be applying the detail. So let's look at how this happens. Now we are going to activate schema. Have you heard of something called nanotechnology? Nanotechnology. I'm sure it began in your O-level science book. The nanotechnology came into first into your understanding, and then I'm sure that in A levels you happen to know a little bit about nanotechnology. And it was a topic for the last 10 to 15 years, because nanotechnology surfaced during last 15 years, and it has now even applications, right? So use your chat space and send us, have you heard of nanotechnology and what you have as an idea on nanotechnology? Quickly send your response. And when you're responding, make sure that your chat is addressed to everyone, not to me or Madam Ashwini. Just address it to everyone so that uh, your whatever you are writing could be, yes, seen by the others. I'm sure you're clear about what is my question. It's prompted on screen. Yes. Have you heard about nanotechnology before? And what is it? Share your idea on nanotechnology on Zoom chat. What we are doing is activating the existing knowledge base of your brain. So we're activating the schemas in your brain. Everyone, please send your response. You don't need to search Google or ChatGPT or anything. You just write or type out what you know already about nanotechnology. Searching is a second strategy. Don't go for that. We need to know your raw data in your brain as nanotechnology. අපිට ඕන වාගේ මොලේ තියෙන අමු දැනුම nanotechnology සම්බන්ධ. Thank you. Somebody began responding us. That is Vinoda and Navidu as well. Study on really small particles. Okay, Vinoda, you are coming into the real essence of nanotechnology. Yes, Navidu has also correctly articulated it. Technology that is used in small things. Okay, that is nanotechnology. Sahanya, you also sent the first answer. Studying about matter appeared in nanoscale. So, do you know what is nanoscale? What is nano level? If you can tell me in any of the powers of 10, what is nanoscale? Yep. Yep. Not that Sahanya, yes. Anyone who can make a guess on the nanoscale? Yes, we know that. 10 to the power of 9, okay? So it's towards the minute or the micro, nano, and that's how it goes on. So now, dear friends, what happens is this, in this case. So we actually look at details as a big picture, and then in this very idea of nanotechnology, now we are activating our brain to get ready for the listening process. You can do this before you go to attend your real life lectures. How? Your lecturer typically gives you a lecture schedule, lecture outline, or rather topics that he or she is going to cover in each session. When you know what appears there, yes, you can think of what key terms, what key topics, what subheadings are going to be discussed in that particular day. And before you start your lecture, other than just, gossiping in the classroom, you can simply be part of a conversation with someone who is super smart and super duper smart in the subject. And you can ask about the clues, what the topic today is going to be and what could it be, and things like that. We are telling this because in the university, you'll be finding enough of friends who will actually help you to waste your time. But there'll be very little people in number. I didn't mean that the people who are very little in terms of the number of people, right? So there will be very few fellows of your batch who will be really, really attentive on academic matters and who are there to do their job. What is their job? Learning, and of course, exploring, right? Be part of that community. Be part of that little bunch or circle where you see they are talking about the matters that they learn every day, and they're talking about the matters that they never learned, and they're talking about the matters that is evolving, right? We are teaching you just to be part of the active university knowledge exploration life, right? Well, so you guys do have an idea about what is nanotech. Yes. Thank you for sharing those informations. And now we are going to do something. What is it? Now we are going to look at something. Get ready with some notes, pen and pencil particularly, and a paper, right? You're going to view a video on nanotechnology, right? And we'll be playing the video only until the first minute and 30 seconds. And when that is done, we'll be stopping there and we'll be asking you questions. So watch and get the gist of it. What is your task? You are going to guess, you are going to identify, you are going to detect what the video is generally about. And then, since we have only 3, we are not going to do this in a breakout room, but we are going to actually share your summaries, individual summaries from the beginning of the video to 1.30 seconds. You're going to give us a summary of the general picture, what the general idea that the video is going to be. Are you ready, guys? If you're ready, we can go there. I wish you are. I wish you are. And we are going to view the video now. And I'm going to play it on your Moodle page itself, right? Let me share the screen. So it's uploaded to the Moodle page, and now you are going to view it. And while you're viewing, remember that you have to take notes, and we'll be playing it only in the early episodes. And while you're listening to it, we want you to take the gist of it and give us a summary at the end of the day. Are you ready? If you're ready, give me a thumbs up with your notes and with your pencils. Give us a thumbs up so that we can move on to play the video. Give us a thumbs up when you're ready. Yes. Yes. And Navido, are you ready? Yes. Here we go. Let me mute my mic because it's the video sound that you're going to listen now. So let me mute my mic and go ahead. Is it audible? ඔයාලා ඇහෙනවද පුතේ වීඩියෝ එකේ තියෙන දේවල්? දැන් මම චුට්ටක් ප්ලේ කරා ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ඇහුණාද sounds? Perfect. We'll go ahead.
Today, we are going to talk about nanotechnology. When we say something is nano, we mean it is very small. The size of 1 nanometer is 1 billionth of a meter, which is about 100,000 times smaller than the width of a human hair. Making new things at this incredibly small scale is called nanotechnology, and it's one of the most exciting and fast-moving areas of science today. Some nanomaterials are naturally occurring. You can find them everywhere, in volcanic ash, ocean spray, fine sand and dust. Naturally occurring nanostructures are also present in plants and animals. For example, nanostructures in insect eyes ensure an anti-reflection and water-repelling effect, so they can fly safely. Nowadays, scientists can create nanostructures themselves. By rearranging the atoms of an object, they can make new nanomaterial with new properties. For example, that are stronger, lighter, or different in color.
Well, you have viewed the video, and now it's your turn to give us your summary of the gist. What is the gist summary? Tell us.
Properties change also according to the
Once you're done with your summary, yes, send it on chat to be viewed by everyone. And with that, we can move ahead with the rest of the story. I'm waiting for your answers. Minoda, thank you for beginning. Well, you found two things. How small the nanoscale. Well, I'm not going to read. I'm going to listen or rather read from the others as well. Thank you, Sahanya. Well, great. Can I hear from our gentleman? You want to read from the gentleman, Navindu. Navindu, it's your turn today. Navindu, we are waiting for your response. Come on. Thank you, Navindu. Well. So the big idea is clear. What you did right now is actually two things. It includes two things. The first thing is you actually grasp the gist of the whole lecture. And now you have a picture in your mind from the knowledge that you know. You activated your brain schema, existing knowledge, and you know that it's going to be about nanotechnology, the small scale thing, and there are nanoscale engineering as well, and there is nanoscale natural world crafts as well. So those are the things that you found in the beginning. And what is our next episode? Yes, what we are supposed to do next is, this time we are going to review the entire video, right? And while you are taking the entire video, we want you to answer the questions to something. And if you want to know what these questions are, quickly go to where? Moodle page. There we have uploaded the material required for this. I'm taking you and I'm showing you where it is available, right? It is available down there in the bottom because it's the day work, and you see worksheet for active listening. Download it quickly, and once you get there, you'll see what you want to answer. Get it ready on your screen, or rather anywhere, or rather you may note down the questions. Actually, we are dealing with part 2, but we want you to deal with part 1 as well while you're doing this, right? So once you're done with downloading this, you know how to download. The download button is there. Keep it downloaded. And once you're done with the downloading, give us a thumbs up so that we can go and view the video. Sahanya gave thumbs up. Navidu and Minoda, please give us your thumbs up as well so that we can move on. Thank you, Minoda. And I'm sure Navidu is also ready. Yes. Okay, guys, let's move. This time you're going to listen again from the beginning. And while listening, you're going to fill out the answers for the questions that you got from the downloaded material. Ready? Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Today, we are going to talk about nanotechnology. When we say something is nano, we mean it is very small. The size of 1 nanometer is 1 billionth of a meter, which is about 100,000 times smaller than the width of a human hair. Making new things at this incredibly small scale is called nanotechnology, and it's one of the most exciting and fast-moving areas of science today. Some nanomaterials are naturally occurring. You can find them everywhere, in volcanic ash, ocean spray, fine sand and dust. Naturally occurring nanostructures are also present in plants and animals. For example, nanostructures in insect eyes ensure an anti-reflection and water-repelling effect, so they can fly safely. Nowadays, scientists can create nanostructures themselves. By rearranging the atoms of an object, they can make new nanomaterial with new properties. For example, that are stronger, lighter, or different in color. The properties change also according to their size, and this is the magic of the technology. In the food area, researchers are working with nanotechnologies to create novel products that may be of benefit to health and diet. For example, nanosilver has antibacterial properties that can be used in food contact material, such as cutting boards. In food supplements, nano-sized carriers increase absorption of nutrients. Nanosensors can be incorporated into packaging to monitor the quality and shelf life of food from manufacturers to consumers. It can also make food ingredients tastier or healthier. Carving up a grain of salt into small nano-sized grains increases its surface area significantly. This means that your food needs far less salt to be equally tasty. This is good news for those who like crackers but are worried about their blood pressure. We need to make sure that food nanotechnologies do not cause harm to consumers. This is why in the EU, engineered nanomaterials in food require a safety assessment. Their specific properties need to be taken into account when assessing impact on human health and the environment. And this is where EFSA comes in. Over the coming years, nanotechnology will touch the lives of all of us. Like many scientific advances, it brings uncertainty and potential risks. It is up to scientists, business, and governments to make it work.
So, guys, I wish you are done with your answers. And we'll be giving you about 3 to 5 minutes to fill up the answers and send it out there on your chat. Yes, it's your time now. For the time being, you can send your answers on Zoom chat. And after today's lecture, we'll be creating a Zoom link where you can submit your answers which you have written to the questions that you just found. And you have time to view the video again as well and fill it and upload for us to evaluate. Okay, I'm not going to disturb you. Just finish your answers and send it here on chat. So friends, what we were trying today is quite simply a bit of a strategy as to how we can process a listening text. You know, when you are going to deal with university studies, one of the very ubiquitous, or rather one of the most frequent ways of delivering knowledge is via delivering lectures. And of course, when you are dealing with internet, videos, and other contents available on World Wide Web, you know that you have to process these details, their information and knowledge with listening. What we taught you is quite simply a two-way strategy where you can first process with the gist listening, and then once you start activating your schemas relevant to that little knowledge that you already have in your brain, then you can actually set some questions like we did in the second exercise. And while answering the questions, while tackling on the key terminology, and while looking at the key ideas and new words surfacing in the lecture, you can move on to detail little by little. So with that, let's move on to see what we have got in the slides. Well, we actually have come to the tail end, to be frank, of today's lesson. But before we come into this wrap-up session, Madam Ashwini, have you got something to add, or are there anything that you want to add to discussion to make it a little more worth attending?
Nothing much. Yeah, so listening, so if you are the university, as I said, the main mode of delivery of content will be lectures, and it will be mainly mass lectures. And also, the thing is, now the most important thing is in a lecture, while a lecturer delivers a lecture, it's very much like you hear certain things, but you have to grasp them at the very moment the lecture produces them from his mouth. I mean, he may not repeat the same content twice, and also there may be less chance for you to like ask for clarification, because if it's a mass lecture, there's no chance to interact with, you just have to listen. And also in some lectures, mostly there are lecturers where they do not give any kind of supporting material, and also the supporting material they give also has very short information, but most of the information is that is delivered via oral, orally. So mainly, you must be very skillful in order to listen very attentively in the entire 2 hours or 3 hours, and then jot down the most important things, and the like if you want detailed information, go for them, and then make your like the next session is making notes. Yeah, so that's it. So listening will be very much important, because now in the university you're listening in a second language, that is English. Yeah, so that's it.
So friends, quite simple. We are giving you the spoons first. Spoons in the sense, now you are going to get yourself served in the university, and we have given you one spoon, that is the reading spoon, and today we have given you the second spoon, that is the listening spoon. And bringing the listening spoon further, we'll be teaching you next week how to organize a lecture note while listening to a lecture. And these are, let me say, these are blueprints, or rather these are panacea, or rather අපි සිංහලෙන් කිව්වොත් ඉතාමත් හැමදේටම හරියන බෙහෙත නොහොත් කෝකටත් අයිදේ කියලා කියන්නේ අපි. So it serves like, it serves as basic toolkits that you require when you get into university to succeed the life therein. So let's reflect on what we have discussed today. We were looking at getting the main idea quickly, and if you could remember, that was the gist listening. And when you need more detail and information, when you deep explore into what the speaker is talking, then we go to detailed facts, and we go to detailed listening. So those are the things that we were doing today. And with that, yes. Yes. With that, we come to the discussion ending, but still we can keep you engaged to ask any question. If you have got any question, please raise here, or rather send it in chat. And with that, we can come to a conclusion and we can wind up the session. So what issues are you encountering right now in our learning trajectory? Because this is the 7th session we are passing, and we'll be having nearly, to cover 60 hours, we'll be having 1.5 hour lectures. So it's nearly 40 lectures we'll be covering, right? We'll see what comes in each episode, with which you'll be prepared eventually, little by little, to be fully functioning in the university. Any questions have we got so far on the things that we have been discussing, or any suggestions that you are expecting to make here for us to change ourselves and make yourself a bit more ambitious? Yes, friends, we are very much willing to listen from you, or rather read from your demands on chat. Sahanya, what issues have you got? Or rather, what have you got to say? Being it a small class, make sure that you use the maximum of the opportunity available for you, because you won't get such a chance once you get into university. Sahanya, please tell us, or rather send us in the chat, anything that you want us to take into consideration. Navidu and Minoda. Please speak or send us anything that you wish to take into account, or are there any requests, maybe any question, anything? And if you haven't got any question, you can simply say good night. If you have a question, kindly articulate it, tell it, or type it. If not, you can unmute your mic and say good night. Thank you, Vinoda. Good night. Thank you, Sahanya. Good night. And Navidu, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. And I actually have to upload. Thank you, Navidu. Yes, we have to upload 2 recordings, today one and the last one on summarizing. We'll be uploading it soon, probably on Monday. Thank you very much for joining in this afternoon, and looking forward to see you with the spirit on next Wednesday. Good night, everyone.